I've had a lot of people asking me to watch this trailer. A lot of people whose primary game is Wuthering Waves, they haven't really played Genshin for a while, actually saying that this thing is really, really, really good. But there's one thing that I want to get straight before we get into like a trailer, before we get into like the lore dive, before we get into how exciting this is going to be. This is something that Genshin does all the time. They release these really cool trailers, these really cool teasers. They have you thinking that stuff is going to be awesome, that stuff is going to be crazy, and then the actual game is lacking. And so I'm kind of going to view this as a like the one exemplary, the one good thing that's going to come out of Genshin prior to them diving into Nod Cry. And hopefully it'll be something that they actually carry forward into the game itself. Because one thing that's certain about this game is that they do put a lot of work into this stuff. But it seems like none of that actual work goes into the game itself. We'll try to keep as much of an open mind as possible. But after 5 years of this sort of like disappointment, where maybe one or two regions, namely like Fontaine or like the Success, maybe Nod Cry is actually going to be different. We'll have to see what the teasers are all about. The Tevyot Chapter Interlude Teaser, The Gods Limits. Let's go ahead, let's get right on into it, and let's see what this one is all about. They're using like this sort of like oil painting filter or like this oil painting CGI or AI. And it makes you wonder, damn, they could put all of this work in, but the fight against Dainsleif and that Abyss Lecter guy was a bunch of rocks shaking. And then you get to see one attack from Dainsleif. That's the sort of prioritization that I'm talking about over here. It's clear that there's so much effort put into this one, into the marketing here, into like the actual visual design. Just do it in-game. Take the resources that you're having in here, do it in-game, because you can tell this is high quality, and then you get into... Looks like it's from a PS2 game. That looks like it's from maybe a PS1 game. That's the type of cutscene that I would have expected from a company that was rushing towards a deadline. Didn't have a budget, and so it was just like, all right, we can just cut that fight scene out, put a bunch of rocks shaking instead, because to signify the earth-shattering power of their blows. Brother, seriously? And then you'll just come out with this weeks later? This is marketing. This is marketing. This is to get people excited and hyped for the upcoming version. And then they just don't carry that effort forward into the version itself. And they've done it over and over again.
This world has always been so. Life abides no reason, for none are born by their own consent. Death abides no reason, for it cannot be defied, even by those who see it coming. Time abides no reason, for it deprives us all equally, yet brooks not a second to be reclaimed. Space abides no reason.
This is the only character I recognize. Maybe I was supposed to recognize these other characters. Maybe it's an issue that I don't. But yeah, this is the only one that I have any idea that they're talking about because she was at the start of the game. Maybe I'm missing some big lore drops over here with these two. The second one is mentioned in that land. Oh, well, I guess that sucks for about 50% of the player base, because I know they didn't play it.
The ruler of space stopped the golden-haired twin travelers and mercilessly tore them apart.
Oh, man. Oh, man. Finally, ladies and gentlemen. 4.5 years in, almost 5 years in, we're finally getting that closure. We're getting a bit of a preview or a bit more information on what happened on day one of the game. Why don't they show any of this shit in game? As far as I'm concerned, Genshin Impact is like not really a game where a red Death Star orbital laser beams come down and then disintegrate NPCs. Is that something that frequently happens in Genshin Impact and I just wasn't paying attention? Or again, is this just the trailers and the lore and like these previews and the marketing representing certain things that you know aren't gonna happen in game?
The beer... No. This looks more like Rhine-daughter's doing.
Oh, that's Albedo's mother. That's one of the
Please don't
the
litter
witches.
other people's spaces with your bizarre creations.
Unsurprisingly, all life here has been rendered unstable, tainted by the ruler of space. I have seen enough to know that repeating this experiment would be fruitless.
Isn't this just like... Did they use Honkai Star Rail to beta test this storyline? Isn't this just like the Herta and Ranmei? It's just Herta and Ranmei, where one of them's gonna be a crazy scientist that does some morally questionable things, but they're like mostly for like a pretty okay purpose, and then the other person's just gonna be like, oh shit, you can't do it like this much. You gotta relax a little bit there.
You seem to...
Okay, what's even going on here? Is this... Okay. What is... Wait, I said Honkai Star Rail and now they got like projector screens. What the fuck is going on?
wield my power as if it were nothing but a plaything for your amusement. Although merging with you has stripped me of agency, I shall still continue to voice my disapproval. My dear Rhine-daughter, you have my respect, Nibirius. Your nagging is one of the only things that can get under my skin.
Okay, well, it looks like two of them are combined. Maybe they combined Ranmei and the Herta into one character.
And you, Istaroth? Why did you bestow history upon them?
I had to find some way to pass the time, did I not? After all, it's clear that Asmodee is not here.
Well, perhaps you could share your input a little earlier next time. But you're right. There's no trace of Asmodee here. Where has she gone? Anyway, it's time I put this space out of its misery.
So I'm hoping that was like a pocket world that they just decided to orbitally nuke. At least I'm hoping that's not a part of the real world. That would probably explain why there were red laser beams coming down and people getting disintegrated. Oh, that's gonna appeal to some people. Yeah, I bet a lot of people like that one. Even got the sound effects too. That's a lot of sound effects.
These meetings are just a formality. Does it really matter that only 3 of us are here?
I, for one, think that we should find her. Since the Heavenly Principles cast us as shades, not one of us has ever missed a meeting.
Robin Pro Max? Yeah.
What if she just switched sides? Finding her would do more harm than good.
Now there's an interesting idea. Better than being
You know what this dialogue section reminds me of? This reminds me of a Honkai Star Rail dialogue section. They're even doing the same poses. They're animating themselves for like 5 seconds and then like hitting the poses and then just talking. This is Honkai Star Rail was the inspiration for this.
devoured.
Just switched sides? You make it sound like such a trivial affair. We are shades, shadows of the Heavenly Principles. It's unthinkable. Unless... She loves her new master more than her own self.
Ranova, do you know that you're being watched?
I'm gonna be honest here. Does anyone have any idea what they're talking about at this point? Or is it like is a huge section of this trailer just like 3 people yapping about something nobody has any idea about and nobody would have any idea about? I guess that might appeal to some people, but I feel like after 4.5 years of not knowing anything and then proceeding to like spend 5 minutes of this trailer also not knowing anything at all is like, did Xiao Ji get fired from HSR? The guy known for his needlessly verbose, absurdly wordy dialogue and crazy story pacing that requires a combination of methamphetamine, caffeine, and cocaine to be able to clear in a reasonable time frame. Is that the guy that's now in charge of the Genshin Impact story? Because that's what it feels like. I feel like I'm in Amphorius or I'm in Penacony right now. This is like I'm talking to 3 Acherons at the same time. I'm witnessing a conversation between 3 Acherons. Literally my worst nightmare.
By whom? Whose gaze could pierce this far?
Surely something is revealed right now, right? Surely. Oh, thank God. Okay, so they were in heaven, or maybe they were in hell. He's looking up, and I know that guy is like one of the big Fatui top dogs. Okay, all right. He's having a little peep at their tea party.
I remember those eyes. It was just before I placed the curse of immortality.
Oh, and I know that guy is from Cainria too, so I guess she's the one that nuked the city. Okay. You'll never see this in game. You'll never see this in game once again, ladies and gentlemen. They'll show you this really cool stuff. They'll make you think it's awesome. And then watch like this PowerPoint animation on like this split screen camera angle over here. You've seen it before in 2005. Just watch this. Watch that black light. Cinema. Absolute cinema right there. This is a game that makes billions of dollars. They show you that they know how to design incredible set pieces that look fucking sick, that look insane. This is like a vortex, a storm of like red electricity and like crumbling buildings and like destruction and shit everywhere. That's the one animation that you get. That's the one animation you get. And now it just looks like they're banging ferociously. It looks like Dainsleif is just banging the Abyss Lecter ferociously. Brother. Maybe this is why everyone is so hyped for a Genshin Impact update. I usually don't watch these. These actually look pretty cool. There's some crazy shit going on here. And then they do this shit in game. Hasn't the player base grown tired of this by now? Aren't they done with this?
Ah, yes. He's an old acquaintance of mine. I'm sure that working for the Tsaritsas helped him let go of his past obsessions.
What, is that supposed to be the Tsaritsa? Is that why they panned the camera over to her, or did they just need to give her some screen time because she said about one sentence?
The Cryo Archon. With her paltry powers, she dares set her gaze on the heavenly principles.
The heavenly principles have yet to awaken. If I were her, I wouldn't pass on that opportunity either. My dear Rhine daughter, you know I cannot allow you to think that way. It was purely hypothetical, Nibirius.
Okay,
For
little
lack of a
schizo.
direct order,
I see a bunch of people saying retcon Impact. No, it's all in line. Okay, I'm just making sure. There were a couple people saying it.
direct order, I say it's time we intervened. Of course, to the extent permitted by the rules.
I think this trailer had this trailer had 2 moments. Clearly, there's still more left to see. I feel like this trailer had about 2 kind of cool moments, and then the rest of it is literally Pentecote dialogue. The rest of it is literally Amphorius dialogue, where you have like this cool scene of like I guess the tan white-haired one. They all have white hair. I don't know why they all have white hair. The dark one going in and blowing up the city. Cool. Then they have like the whole sequence of them, I guess, the dark one nuking this shit again. And then you're basically given about 6 minutes of just dialogue that nobody knows what's going on. 6 more minutes of cryptic ass dialogue. I'm worried, guys. I'm worried. Mainly because it looks like the exact same type of storytelling is gonna happen again. More needlessly verbose, word-bloated, crazy dialogue that's gonna span for 90% of the actual playtime. And then 30 seconds of cool stuff. And then everyone's just gonna remember only the cool stuff. And then forgive the actual garbage that preceded it. Because holy moly, these guys aren't talking in plain English. These guys aren't saying things that make a ton of sense. There's like maybe 2 specific things, and it's about like Piero, and like, oh, he used to have like an obsession, and that's like it. That's the main thing you can draw from this shit. Everything else is just so cryptic.
The gaze of the gods has always been considered a blessing.
I feel like this is gonna be the best part of the trailer. We'll see.
Hence the origin and meaning of visions.
Okay.
People have always yearned for the gaze of the gods.
Is it just like the gaze of the Aeon?
And yet, it is said that when mortals look directly upon the gods, they invite their wrath and retribution. And what of it? Lives will be lost, a nation brought to ruins. So be it. It is nothing I have not endured both.
I will say, the visual design of this area actually looks like it's one of the better ones in Genshin. Hopefully this is Nod Cry. Hopefully this is Nod Cry, like this area over here. It gives me like little bit of like it gives me like some Arcane vibes, a little bit like Piltover, a little bit like Zon, and it's also a little bit, oddly enough, somebody said it's a little bit like Tower of Fantasy. Actually, yeah, it looks like Tower of Fantasy. That would be the main one.
Before, I already know the price of gazing upon the gods. So tell me, what is the price of killing a god? The god stays silent, as if the thought had never once crossed his mind. To all those who dare not look up to the heavens, Her Majesty the Tsaritsa says this.
I feel like a lot of people after this will want Piero to be playable, will want Piero to be like actually, I guess, a bit of like not necessarily like a full villain. And you know what they're probably gonna do? Yeah, they're probably gonna kill him. They're probably gonna shelve him like Capitano. Do the same exact thing over again, where they hype up a character, they get people excited for them. They do all this lore stuff, all these crazy reveals, and then they're probably just going to disappoint people again, and then release another sexy BDSM biker lady. Probably Tsaritsa's gonna be on like on like ice skates. Yeah, she'll be the BDSM ice skater.
Behold, even the gods have their limits.
Natlan, in my opinion, has done so much damage to the Genshin Impact franchise with how they let pretty much everybody down with its integration of the story and how they absolutely butchered the handling of so many different plot points and characters. And what's going to end up happening is that even if they set these expectations pretty high, I'm pretty sure the dedicated player base that's actually been following along is going to recognize that they have to take a lot of salt with these expectations. Because at the end of the day, they could just do the same exact thing that they did with Natlan again. Go against all of the teasers, go against all of the hype, and just completely let all the players down because they want to sell the characters. Straight up. They sidelined Capitano, they did all this shit, they ruined his story, did all of that so that they could marry Sue and sell Mavuika. And I bet they're gonna do the same exact sort of shit to Piero. They're probably gonna do some shit to these shades of the Heavenly Principles as well.
Inspection over. Return to your posts.
And it looks like they're going full, like, future tech with this one. I'm just wondering. Maybe Sneznaya is, like, racist or something? How is it that they got, like, robots and, like, spaceships and, like, cyberpunk tech, and then, like, Liu Wei and, like, Yazuma are still over here, like, fucking farming in fields and, like, tilling the soil? Like, it's... Like, I guess this is the thing. It's just like, there's a certain, like, suspension of disbelief that you need to have when you can recognize that half of the world in Tevyat is, like, living in the actual, like, medieval Stone Ages. And then there's other dudes on the other side of the continent with, like, lasers and, like, robot cyborg armies. I have to imagine there needs to be some balancing of, like, power, right? It kind of just looks like Sneznaya has everything. And you're just wondering to yourself, how have they not conquered the world yet? How have they not conquered the world yet? Why do they even need spies? Just send one of your cyborg assassins to just go do the job. What, like... Maybe this is where the retcon comments are coming from. Maybe this is where the claims that Genshin, that Hoyo has retconned the story is coming from. Because this shit looks like ZZZ, brother. I don't feel like they intended to go down this route with their world building to literally have, like, sections of the map like Liyue, like Inazuma, like Sumeru, and then proceed to just have, like, Night City on the other side of the map, and they're just chilling, not doing anything.
Make sure the Frostmoon Scions don't pose a threat.
Per the Pale Star Edict, we are to retrieve the damselette from Nod Cry, whatever it takes.
Awesome. All right, now we know what's gonna happen. Another person we have no fucking clue about. And another plot point we have no idea is relevant. That's Columbina. I guess she's abandoning them. Oh, one of the Harbingers is abandoning the Fatui. That certainly hasn't happened before. I'll just give, like, my overall thoughts on this. It really does genuinely seem like, with this trailer, it doesn't seem like you had to have done anything with Natlan at all. It almost seems like they're erasing Natlan from the entire conversation with this bad boy. They're probably going to say Capitano got lost on vacation. Right now, they just they rehashed a couple of older members. They introduced a couple of new ones. They had some cool cinematics, or really, like, some cool animations, because the whole thing is a cinematic. And then the rest of it was just, yeah. It was just talking about stuff that nobody's fundamentally going to understand. Probably most of it doesn't actually matter that much. It had some good animation to cover it. But at the end of the day, this just gives me the same exact storytelling vibes that we've gotten from Hoyoverse this entire time. More talk, a little bit of show, but mostly telling. You'll never see any of this stuff in game. You'll see all these crazy animations, this crazy world building, this crazy lore. Some of it is great, but once again, ladies and gentlemen, that's what you get in game. Did you see the Skirk Story Quest representation bubble party?
Don't let a single one of them get away!
No, please, spare the children! Stay back!
They're coming! Run!
That's the worst thing I've ever seen. You're telling me this was in Genshin 5.7? Nah, this is worse than This is the worst. This might be the worst thing I've ever seen. I didn't know about this. This literally changes
Eliminate the threat.
Take them down!
Don't be scared.
This way!
to reiterate my points, sorry, I almost cried there a little bit out of well, it's a mixture of emotions right now. As I was saying before, right, this company has a track record of doing this, pumping out pretty good hype and then proceeding to fall short of pretty much every single expectation possible at every single opportunity possible. And I'm thinking that this is just going to be another example of it, where they're going to let people down in the story after building up all of this hype, because Skirk was one of the most hyped characters ever, teased since actually one of the initial launch versions of the game. And this is how they did her story quest. And then for Dainsleif, in one of the first times people ever get to see him fight, they have him literally looking like a PS2 game with its animations. So yeah, that'll be that. That'll be my take. I'm hoping that this actually brings the story back on track, since this seems like one of the most plot relevant ones that have ever been had in the history of the game. But there's still so much unnecessary talking and extended runtime in this one as well. So I don't think it bodes that well for the future. However, if people do get hyped, they have a reason for it. I just wouldn't set my expectations too high, knowing what's happened in the past with this, with Hoyoverse before. Let me know what you all think. Peace.